All right. How's everybody doing? What happened? So let's check what I got today. What do I got? Do I have everything? Let's look at the free shot, the golden shot. Now, I will tell you that if you're playing these golden shots, it is imperative that you watch Tommy's video, because Tommy, like it'll get you right on the deal. You won't have any issues whatsoever. So I think this is with I have not watched it, but it is, if you're like dead serious about the golden shot, you need to watch Tommy's videos on it. I will say that those videos that he puts out are, of all of his videos, are super important to watch. 50%, and I'm 100% sure it's in wood. And it might be a long iron. Long iron 66%. So this is 1.7 per ring, and this is 2 per ring. Let's go play it. All right, here we go. Let's take a free shot. We'll just go out there and see if we can get in the spot with nothing. 6-6 wind, and I'm in my wood. Where's the red line? I am right at the red line. Some of you have probably watched that video and you're like, dude, you need to put on 2.5. You're probably right. 6-6, golden woods, 2 per ring. So there's 2-4, and I'm going to do a little. So that'd be about 2.5 rings, but I'm going to move it just a little more. Hitting it perfect. So we'll see where I set it up for. Let's see. It's going to go long. I didn't put enough backspin on there. I felt like I needed to put like 3. I think I put 2. Whatever I put, I needed to put at least 1 more. All right, that was my free shot. I didn't make it. I like going out there and just playing. If you haven't learned anything else from watching my videos, the whole deal is I'm just trying to help people learn how to play. That's the whole deal. And if you already know how to play, and you're watching my videos, hey, thanks. And maybe I can impart something, like, maybe there's like one thing that you get when you watch this. I try and think of things outside of the box, or at least think of how to play these holes in different ways other than just one. That way you can think for yourself. Like, maybe you don't have the clubs to do that shot, or maybe you have clubs that can do more than what they can do, so you can do another shot. So at least thinking about the holes based off of what you can get done with your club. But we have got a new tournament. We have 2 that got announced. My teammate Kyle sent me the stuff on Big Top, and I set up a playlist for it. And there was also, I didn't realize there was a 9-hole cup. So when I came in to do the video, the walkthrough video, scouting report for the Big Top, I saw the Mirage, so I set one up for the Mirage. So if you go into YouTube, you go to my channel and you go to playlists, I get a lot of viewers that talk about, because when I upload the videos, so like here I uploaded them as I went, but sometimes I shoot them all and then I upload them, and then smaller holes that go faster will load faster, so it may be out of order. Anytime you come and watch my videos, you can always go to, I set up a playlist for everything, and I usually set it up as soon as that stuff downloads, so it's usually pretty quick, but you can go in and I always have playlists for it. So if you know that a tournament, so like for the Big Top tournament, all those holes are in the fall major, the 2020 fall major, you can go in my playlist and search for the 2020 fall major, and there'll be a scouting report and there'll be all that stuff. So like there's all kinds of information on there, and it'll show you in different holes. And if you know tournaments that those holes were in, older tournaments, I may have played them a different way, and so you can get some different looks at them. All right, and I have videos for lots of tournaments. Mirage, 9-hole cup. All the holes are going to be at Oasis, so let's go check out Oasis. Let's go check it out. All right, Oasis, hole number 1. All right, first of all, know that this island out here, there's a bunch of people out there partying, and this island out here, this is for spectators, and they got boats all over the place. And this during tournament time, like when we're playing this in one-on-one, there's a couple boats out here, but like during tournament time, I wish they'd have a little more action, because there's tons of people out here hanging out on these islands, because nobody ever hits out there, so they've got fairways. The greenskeepers have to take little rowboats over there and maintain those areas, and they're constantly in a state of being pissed about it because nobody ever uses those. Why? Because we can't reach them. Here's your red line out in here, just depending on what ball you're bringing. So, you know, looking at the cup, you got a straight in shot from this side right here that doesn't really involve any, because you can come in on this side and you can take these traps out of play. It does feel to me like, I don't know, we have to kind of, you can kind of have an idea when you go into these holes as far as like win numbers, but like just like thinking about how you want to come to the hole so you can set yourself up for success. This is a wood shot, and this is a super makeable albie from out here. I mean, I think the first albie I ever got in the game was on this hole, and this I'm doing from this side. It's very possible. The drive is actually, if you fail on the drive and you're here, you're in big trouble. If you fail on the drive and you're down in the lower part down here and you have a nirvana, you can clear. Now, this is one of the reasons why it's always important to bring out, can you play this with a lower power ball? Absolutely. But if anything happens to you on your drive and you're hitting over here, you're going to wish you had a power 3 ball. So, I mean, even a Titan, I mean, a Kingmaker, a little more side spin, sometimes that works, and the Win 3, but Win 2 is not bad. So there is some danger over here. So when you're playing this, it always seems to me like on the second shot at least, and I'm not sure on the drive, but on the second shot, you want to stay the hell away from that sand because it's kind of like a magnet. So it always feels like there's some type of plus wind here, like maybe in the plus 10%. But I would come out here the very first time you're taking this shot from over here and just do a normal wind adjustment and see what happens. The whole goal is to hit perfect so you can go back, and this is why it's so important to record your own video. Because like I make my notes, I record the video for you guys, and then I go back and watch that video so that I can see what I actually did, because I'm just playing. And then I go back and see what I did so that I can make notes. And that's why it sucks when you don't hit perfect going into the cup. And when you're taking this drive shot, you do not have to get all the way out here to the end. I mean, look at the distance. If we go from the cup out into this area and we draw a line, our arc is like this. So if we're over here in this spot, the distance to the cup is the same as if we were right here to the cup. But on this side, we've got more of the sand and the rough to deal with. So the farther you can get out there, the more you can clear that without having to use any side spin. But if you're right in the center and you've got a ball that's got 1 or 2 side spin, at least I would say 2 will give you a better advantage. 3 would top it off. So once again, that's an argument for the Kingmaker. You can start off and bring it around. So you only have to get to the middle, because the middle's the same distance to the cup. So now it's just about whether or not, if you don't have a big side spin ball and it takes a 3, then you probably need to get out there a little bit further. But if you got a 3 side spin ball, you can probably hit right dead center in the middle. So you don't have to get all the way to the other side. You can get caught up in these roughs because you got a bounce coming over. So if you're off to the left or the right here, you're going to still hit. But you got to think about, most people are going to be using an extra mile. So 1 ring great to the left is 2.1 miles per hour in wind for most people. So that's that puts you in this rough. That puts you in this rough. So it's very easy here, if you don't hit perfect on the drive, to end up in the crap. Now there is another shot that you can do here, and you can do this. This works good with, it works good with a QB. It works great with a rock. It works great with an Apocalypse. Anything that's got curl, big topper, and you can come out and a big topper, a rock, and a QB, you're going to need to bring out a bigger ball to make your red line stretch out, because you're trying to get up into this spot right here, or this area. And so from the tee box, let's like look at where we're trying to get to a tee rough bump right here, where we're straight on in the cup. So we're trying to get out into this quadrant right here. And from the tee box, our red line may be right here with a QB. So we're riding right up against that. So we have to make up this gap. Now this does float down a little bit, but you got to have your speed absolutely perfect to catch that. It's more than likely going to ride up it and scoot up it and fly off into this rough. You need to land out here. And if I remember correctly, it doesn't take much. Let me see if I wrote notes down for these holes. I didn't write notes down for the Oasis holes, but I use a rock and a QB if you can. But if you've got an Apocalypse, you bring out a big enough ball, you can get in front of this, where you're actually hitting, and I think it takes max overpower or a 5-power ball. You can get in front of this, and that would be the shot. If you can get in front of this, because my whole goal when I come to this hole is I do a max overpower hook where if you start your ball guide off so that your ball guide's just like this, riding up against this rough, take out the wind. Now with an extra mile 8, or excuse me, an extra mile 9 and bigger curl clubs, you'll have to go out a little bit farther. But with a lower power ball, from this spot right here, you can do a max overpower hook and you'll end up coming through like this. And only like 1 or 2 times have I ever made it through to the other side and actually ended up over here on the fairway. Normally I end up in this rough. And from this rough, you're long iron. So you're using your Nirvana. So from here, you've got a great shot. If you're in the front right here, you're using a wood. But if you bring out a big enough ball, or if you can get up there big and you've got like a Goliath, you may be able to take this shot with a long iron and take that tee rough bump. Now, if you don't like the rough bump, or if the wind's blowing such that the rough bump becomes too dangerous, you could bring a club that has backspin, and you can backspin it on, and it does have a backboard. So there's probably a funnel in there that you might be able to find just hitting it straight in. But how do we get up here into the front? This max overpower hook shot will put you in the rough every time. And 2 out of 100 maybe to the other side. But if you could hit your ball starting off here and you had a big APOC, or even if you had an extra mile and you had a big enough ball that you could get up past this area, and this may be totally wind dependent, but if you can get a bounce here with topspin, you could bleed out. If you had like an APOC 6, an EM 9, you might be able to bleed out of that. I don't think a big topper gives you enough of a red line, even with a big power ball, that you could get over there. So this is either going to be an extra mile or an Apocalypse shot. But if you can get to the other side and actually get on the fairway, which is really hard because of the sand trap, you got a straight in shot. But the rough shot, you got a great shot with your Nirvana. And you can backspin the Nirvana on if you don't like doing the rough bump, or you can do the rough bump with your Nirvana. Especially if I had a wind that was blowing in one of these directions, so it's blowing with the rough. If I made a little bit of a bad adjustment with my Nirvana, it's not going to kill me. But if the wind was blowing straight headwind or tailwind, I might rethink that, because any slight error on my part is an epic fail. So then I might just backspin it on. Several different ways to play that. I'm going to actually explore. It seems to me that the last time I played, I saw somebody hit out here. And they must have brought out a big power ball and they had a big APOC. And I saw somebody that was able to hit out in front of this, but they may have had a tailwind that was helping them, and that may be a shot that you can only take if we've got a tailwind. But if we do have a tailwind, that would be a shot to have in your bag, because you may be able to get up here into like serious Albie shot. And that rough bump is a serious Albie shot though. Hole number 2, hole number 2, hole number 2. Da 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 da. All right. This seems to me the spot to be in, and then we're coming around to it, and this is definitely a makeable hole. This par 5, is this par 4? Par 4 is definitely eagleable on this side. It seems to me that every time I've taken the shot out to here, that I was totally disappointed with what I netted out here. And you have to bring out, if I remember correctly, you have to bring out a big ball. Because when you're in this area, what you cannot abide is being able to have your red line be somewhere this side of this transitional surface, so that you have room here to maneuver. Room to be able to, where your red line may be up to this point right here, and this gives you the ability to be able to work out the wind, so you can set it up in that spot. So if you come out here and you've got a lower power ball, it may not really affect the drive, but the second shot, you've got to have your red line has to be in front of that, and the more the merrier. And I don't want to have to do some bounce over here. And it seemed to me like when I played over here that because of the way that you came into the hole, that you really needed more backspin. You couldn't just like run it up there, but I could be wrong on that. But my recollection of doing this shot several times is that I needed a Guardian, or that's the club that you were going to use. And this shot was super tough, and then this shot did not pay off. I mean, it wasn't worth the effort. So I will never do the shot to the right. I've taken that shot several times just to remind myself of how bad it sucks. But unless somebody can show me some perfect thing from that side. Now, I don't even think the rough bump would be good from that side based off where the pin is in that rough. But you can do a rough bump from here, and you can come around. So you do have some options from this side right here. Now getting out to that area, this just screams like Titan and QB. I mean, anytime, I'm pretty sure that you can use a QB to get up into this area. And this little teeny pad right here is just like I was talking about earlier. If you're one ring off, great left or right with your extra mile, you're 2.1 miles per hour off. If you're one ring great to the left or the right with a QB, you're only 1 mile an hour off. So you can catch a great to the left and the right on a QB on pretty much every hole, and you'll be in the fairway. Whereas with your extra mile, you could be in trouble. And anytime if your extra mile is your primary club, and any time that you can actually play a hole with the QB and the red line's not the issue, you should play with your QB, because you'll have a much better chance in one-on-one of being able to win if you can beat them out on the course. And if you're always in the fairway, then it's hard for people to beat you, because you're just beating them out on the course because they keep screwing up, and you're not. But we're playing to this spot right here with a straight in shot. And I've made eagles on this hole. This is not an easy hole to eagle, but it is eagleable. Hole number 3. What is hole number 3? This par 3. This par 3 has been reworked several times. This tree, like for those of you that haven't been playing forever, it was different. There was a tree right here and it put a shadow off on this. And this area was all different. And I used to hit directly into the sand because a lot of people screwed up on this hole, so I could just drive it into the sand right here. And this distance was better than where they were at. And it was an easy way to get a win on this instead of trying to do it. But the shot before was to come from over here and then try and bring it around. Now another change that they made is the green is now flat. There's a little bit of a mound where the flag pulls out, but it's pretty flat. It used to have a big shelf on it, so when it got down there to the flagpole, I mean, it went like this. And if you were down here, even though you weren't that far away from the flagpole, it was a bitch of a putt. And they flattened that out, and I will tell you, I was very happy about that, because this is a hole that I ended up low of the cup because it was hard to get up on that upper plateau. It ran right along here, and it was hard to get up on it. And you're doing the same thing from here. Your shot is coming out in this direction, and so you're 2 rings of separation, and you're trying to bring it back around and float it around the top to bring it to the cup. There's none of that going low. Well, I suppose you could go low and try and bring it up here, but really you're trying to ride the top of the green and roll it around. So it takes some side spin. If it takes top spin or backspin, it's very little. And it takes curl. And I would set that shot up, if you do the shot out here and you're using curl, I would set it up so that you use max curl. So you use max curl and you go, wow, that went way too far. Then don't put as much side spin on it. Try and set it up so that you can use max curl. There is a shot from the island, and you can come from the island and you're doing a second bounce rough bump. Now, I think that you can do it where you don't do the rough bump and it rolls up the back, and it's very speed. If your speed's off just a little bit, you can fly off the back, but you'd follow it around. But I think you can do a second bounce rough bump, and then it's just dribbling towards the cup. There is a rough bump that you can do because they changed where this tree is at. You can come on this side of the tree and come in and do a rough bump here. And I'm going to have to watch the video that I put out that's in the playlist to see what ball. I think it's with a Grizzly, but I'm not sure which ball I was using. It may have been one of those ones, in order to get to that rough bump, I had to bring out a Kingmaker. But it does seem to me that it was at least a 2 side spin ball, probably a 3. I haven't watched them yet. All right, this hole right here, I love this hole. I've gotten a lot of eagles. I've won a lot of one-on-one holes on this hole right here. If you can get, so your drive shot, and this is one of those types of greens out here that when it comes over the other side, because of the elevation change that it has, when it comes over to the other side, it's one of those ones that will catch one of those bounces and slide. And so the course is undulated down here, and the ball comes flying in, and it catches it just at this angle, right at this angle, and slides down. And then instead of making a bounce to go up, it is now just flat to the contour of the ground, and it scoots. And you can get all the way out here to the end. But you can hit, this is one of the things that makes this dangerous, is that you can hit out there without getting that. But if you get that, it's bad, because you don't have any control over it. If you're in the rough up here in front and you have a Nirvana in your bag, you can make it onto the green. Even if it's a lower level Nirvana, you can make it up there. And you can do that. You can, if you got, you could potentially do the bounce over. And I think the Nirvana might just have enough topspin in order to get that done. And you could actually do it so that you do a second bounce rough bump, because the shot that we're going to take from here is this perfect T rough bump coming in at the hole. And so we're not involving this island at all. We're going from this spot right to this rough. Now you can bring a backspin club and you can start on, and there is a backboard and you can try and bring it down. So you could bring a club that's got great ball guide so that you can try and walk that down, or you can do the rough bump. Or in a worst case scenario, if you had a sniper, for sure you can bounce from here and get over. If you've got lower stuff, I used to take this shot from out here, and I would bring a Guardian, because a Guardian has more distance than a sniper. And my whole goal was to get this rough bump. If you've got a Guardian and you hit back farther and you have to bounce from here, you will suffer, because it only has that 1.5, 2.5 backspin, or topspin, excuse me. And so it barely has enough to get you over here to try and do a second bounce rough bump to get on the green. But I think the primary way that we want to play this is to hit out into this area and then try and engage this rough bump to go straight to the cup. And this is I'm pretty sure it's a wood, but if you bring a big enough ball, I still think it's a wood. If you're close enough on that end and you brought out a really big ball, you might be in Goliath or B52, but you're not going to be in any of your other long irons. I'm pretty sure that that's a wood shot. And if you're doing the rough bump, a sniper will work out really good. It's got great ball guide. It's really accurate. If you're unsure, learn how to do the shot with your Guardian. You can do the rough bump with your Guardian. You just have to learn how much topspin to put on there. It doesn't have a lot, but you can put, or this may be one of those rough bumps that takes backspin. But if you have to backspin it on, you're in the wrong spot. You can stick it with a Guardian. So you can't go wrong with a Guardian in your bag, but you might get hurt if you're in the wrong spot on the drive with a sniper. And you don't want to be in trouble on this drive. Not in anywhere that's like around this area. If you're up here, you can make it. So what do we do on the drive? I'm going to have to work on how much topspin to put on, because I'm not sure how many. I'm sure on the last set of videos I probably had an extra mile 9, but with the extra topspin that's on there, I have to gauge some of these holes. It's not max topspin anymore. Some of these holes you can tone it down a little bit. You're going back to where like a level 8 or a level 7 extra mile was. I usually like to get up high up in here and then bring it down into the area. I like to stay away from the sand, but where your red line's out here with a 3 power ball, you can get more towards the center. And I'm going to ride this line for my red line. I'm going to use this line as the way. So I know if you're out here with lower power balls, you're probably going to end up in this corner, because that's where you can ride that line at. and bring it across into this fairway. But if you bring out a bigger ball, you're going to have to scoot down this line until you can find the spot. And my normal MO is I scoot down that line until I find a spot where I'm 2 rings of separation, and I see what that looks like. So like if I was out too far, I may have to put on right-hand side spin and curl in order to bring the ball back out into this area. But I'm pretty sure we're just going to want to go right through the center to get out into there, depending on what ball and clubs you have. We're hole number 5. Hole number 5, the fish hole. And I'm going to have to look up the numbers for this because I got this. When I played Tour 9, Oasis was in Tour 9. I'm not sure if it is anymore. But Oasis is a tough course from the Pro Tee. And this hole right here, these par 3s, I kicked ass in these holes, just like in the holes, like playing out in the field. But when we got to the par 3s, these par 3s are tough. And this par 3, if you're trying to come at it from the bottom, hold on, if I can get my pen to work. Where is my pen? Did I move my thing over my pen? It was there. There it is. It's hiding up at the top. Now I can't grab a hold of it because it's so close up by my... Hold on. Let's see if I can get a hold of that. Hey. There we go. Sorry about that. And then I turned it off. All right, let's get the pen. If you're trying to do this type of movement to get over to that cup, this hole blows, in my personal opinion. And let's talk about some things on this hole. You can be right over here and not on the fringe, but on the green, and that's a max overpower putt that you might not be able to get all the way to the hole. So, I mean, if you draw a circle from right there, I mean, over here you might have a better shot. I've never really been over in this area, but I can tell you that just like straight across from the pin, if you're still on the green, it's a max overpower putt. So if you do something that gets you going in this direction and you overshoot it and you end up over here, you're definitely not making that putt. This is an old green where there was a ton of spots on the green where you couldn't get to the cup. So you want to be pretty close to the hole if you miss it so that you have a short putt. And these ones that come around like this just suck. I won my last trophy, finally maxed out Tour 9 on this hole, and this hole had given me the most fits throughout the deal. So at that point, I actually stopped and learned how to play the hole. And I like this rough bump. Now, I see people play this rough bump in a bunch of different ways. And if we look at topography down here, like this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is the fringe. So this is fairway. We got 1 cut of rough, 2 cuts of rough. I see people hit from the second cut of the rough, and I see people hit from the first cut of the rough. I like to hit from the first cut of the rough. And here's the reason why. Up here at the top, like if we look at number 1, here's the sand, and then it comes up to number 1, and then it comes down, and then here's the flagpole. And so 1's up here at the top, and it involves this curvature. And so if you hit just a little in front or behind on the first cut of the rough, you could get at this point, because you have to put backspin on in order to stop yourself to get to the hole. And whenever you're using rough and backspin, any error, like you could hit this on this side right here and it'll go straight up in the air and land in the sand. So if you make a bad wind adjustment, you could epic fail in the sand. If you're in the first cut of the rough, and if you're on the front here, you can have the reverse happen where you hit it just at the arc before it gets to the flat, and it could bounce out farther and you can end up over here and you can have an epic fail. But if you're in the first cut of the rough and you over pull, you're very unlikely to have that effect. Now what you could do is you could end up clipping that fairway. But I'm usually more up towards, because it flattens out, it goes like this and here's the hump, and then it starts to flatten out as it goes down the thing. So all of the first cut and maybe a quarter of the second cut is actually on this flat. So I tend to be a little bit higher in that first cut of the rough. So if I do make a slight error in my adjustment, I don't think I've ever hit the fairway. But what I found was I'm going to have to go back and watch. I'm using a Guardian. We're not using quite all the backspin. And this is one of those holes that when you start it off, you need to spin it so that you're looking at it from this angle so that you can adjust the backspin and you can watch the backspin draw back to the flagpole. And the first time you get those numbers, you want to go back and watch your video and go, hey, that was 6.5 or 5.5 backspin. And then see where you're at up in here so that the next time you come out of that hole, all you have to do is move 2 rings or 1 ring off of that transitional surface, put on 6 backspin, spin it around, look at it from this direction, and then get your spot right, and you're good to go. So you can save time to set the shot up. It'll be very important to have your numbers for your clubs. And so depending on what club you're using here, I'm going to use a Guardian. And if I remember correctly, it's a 40% wind adjustment. It was a massive wind adjustment. And I'm going to have to go, and I'm not sure when you're in pro, because it seems like in pro, depending on what ball you bring, is going to depend on where you're at in your club. And some balls could give you a red line issue. So if you want this full area here for your Guardian, you're going to have to bring out a ball accordingly for that spot, and then you're going to have to see where you're at in your club and work out the numbers. But I'm 100% sure that I was doing a 40% wind adjustment. And I think I was using Max Club. But I'm going to have to go back and watch the video on it. Because when I stopped and actually started playing this hole and started playing this rub up and figuring it out, the wind numbers that were going around were like, wait, it wasn't like working. Like you could get close, but when I changed the wind numbers, I was like dead on. And really, when I get on this hole, I actually think that this hole, like if I don't get a hole in one on this hole, I'm a little disappointed, especially on a perfect. I mean, I expect those perfects to go in, and on this hole, you can get a hole in one. This is a very hole in one-able hole. Very. And that's the only way I'm going to play it. Because that bringing it around sucks. The bounce hole. All right. So that's as far out as I can scroll. So we can see it all. So let's draw a straight line. We obviously aren't going that way. So we have option 1 and we have option 2. Option 1 is kind of like that other hole where it takes a lot of effort to get out here into the spot, and then it doesn't really pay dividends coming in. Now, there may be a rough bump, a T rough bump that you could do here, and that might net dividends if you can get to the right spot. And when you come in at it from this angle right here, this hole is tough. Because how the green is sitting, it is super easy to overshoot the green, and it goes, if you overshoot the green, you're in the rough. Because of the way that the ball is dropping, everything's going this way on the green, it's dropping downhill. It does flatten out a little bit when you get towards the bottom, but that's a long ways away from the cup. So it's not uncommon to see people starting off when they're on the green. And we'll kind of work in reverse order here. When they're coming on the green, where they're coming up and then they're trying to drop down to the hole. It would be, if you were from the other side and you could use this rough right here to do a rough bump, this part down here is a little bit flatter coming up to the cup. And I'm a big fan of coming up to the cup instead of trying to go down to it. So anytime I can, I want to be in a spot where you could get, now I believe there is a rough bump that we can do from here. Possibly. But I think normally our red line is like back in this area with a sniper. And so we're having to bring the ball around. Obviously a bigger ball, you might be able to get up a little bit farther, but typically we're taking this with a sniper. But if you came in from this side right here, it may be worth exploring. I'll play it like that one more time just to remind myself how bad that side sucks. And I'll bring out a big enough ball to see what it takes to get up into this area. I'll start off with a Titan and then we'll see if I need something bigger. I'll practice some of these holes. I'll shoot this video and then I'll probably practice some holes and shoot some more video on that. And how do we get out to that hole? We do the bounce, diddy, bounce, diddy, bounce. You're gonna bounce through here where your red line's out in this area, out in here, depending on what ball and club you bring. So you're bouncing from this fairway, bouncing to this fairway, bouncing to this fairway, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to start out with a 10% adjustment. And I'm not too sure that wasn't a little bit bigger, but I had this, it may be a little bit bigger, but I know for a fact that I did at least a 10% adjustment on the drive because I want those bounces to get, I want to be consistently on the other side, and I want to give myself, what I want to do is find a ball that's big enough that I'm not at the red line. I've pulled the club back in order to set the shot up, and that way I can work out wind from either side. Your goal is to get right up into this area. The key here is this bounce. As long as you're on trajectory when you're on this bounce. So if you can set your shot up enough so that when you're looking forward, your second bounce, when you're coming from this area, your second bounce coming through, you've got room on the left and the right. So if you hit it great to the left or the right, it ends up off here, but then it ends up coming on this trajectory and it'll come out over here. And then if you're on the low side, it'll bounce over here and you'll end up coming out over here. And if it's perfect, it goes right down through the center. So I mean, we were talking about earlier, like down here where it first hit, you're using an extra mile. It was 2.1 miles per hour off. It's 2.1 miles per hour off. Well, as that goes out, it gets wider up here. I mean, I don't know that the math is absolutely perfect, but we think about just like, just to throw a number out there, it's 4.2. Now all of a sudden you're at 4.2. So you're way off. You're 2 rings off. And so it can be very easy to get caught up in this. So this is one of those drives that if you're hitting out of this area, you really want to hit perfect. And you really want to know what your wind. So this is a good thing if we can get into this area with like a QB or a rock. If you got an upper developed rock, this is probably a good hole. It may not have enough topspin. All right, but I will try the shot out here one more time just so that I can explore the rough bump, because I think when I came at it before, I came at it on the fairway, and I definitely needed a club that had some stuff. But I may try that rough up just to see what it looks like, because I think you can get out. Your angle to this might be a little bit better, and you might be able to get out there. Hole number 7. Hole number 7. This par 3. You can do, depending on what tee you're at, you can bounce, diddy, bounce, diddy, bounce. You can start on this one, and you can go bounce, diddy, bounce. There is a rough bump that you can do here, and I've worked to both sides of it. So I've set the shot up, and we took it for a while where we're using right-hand side spin, and we were starting off low, trying to bring it up to the cup, and starting off over here and then trying to bring it down. There's a gully. Let's see if we can get close enough to this, see what kind of detail we can get. Picture's not good enough. There's a gully that runs down through here, and so it seriously affects your ball depending on how it's coming in, and it's a shelf. So I think this top part's a little bit higher, and then this green's tough. So if you're down here and you're trying to bring it up through the deal, the ball gets caught up in all kinds of crap. And so you can hit it perfect and everything works out and you got a hole in one and you can come back and do it again, and you did, and literally like everything was the same, but something out here on the course, some little pocket, it was halfway up the thing and it changed its trajectory. And the same thing on the upper. I've always found this. I think that this is one of the hardest holes in the game to get a hole-in-one on, but I know that there's somebody out there that's probably going, dude, that hole is super easy to get a hole-in-one on. Then you just do this right here. And that may be true, but this hole has always been, I thought, tough. It's not so much that it's tough to get, just to get your birdie and move on. Although this is a hole that will eat some people's lunch. I mean, there's going to be a pretty good portion of the bracket that's going to have epic failed on this hole at least once in a round. I mean, that number might be 20 or 30%, but even on 20% on the low end, that somebody's failed on this hole. If you're going to fail on a par 3, it's going to be this one. I'm going to explore that rough bump. I've been working the rough bump, and I've taken the shot from back here, And I'm pretty sure that we were doing a wind adjustment on this, but start off with just your normal wind adjustment and see what happens. Bouncing from this to go forward. And this was ball dependent. So making sure that your red line was here. I think we had to bring out a bigger power ball in order to get our sniper up far enough. And I think I've brought out a big enough ball that I've been able to start off on the green with a Guardian. And I might have had more success doing that shot, because then I could try and avoid all this stuff where I started off in a pretty nice area and I bounced completely over that. And then I was using backspin to try and get me to the hole. So I was avoiding all this crap. So we do have some options on here, just depending on what your ball inventory is and what you're willing to try out. So you may go out there and try that and go, man, my Guardian doesn't hit far enough, but you get, you brought out a big power ball and your Guardian's not big enough, but you get your Guardian upgraded a level or two, and all of a sudden that Guardian can do that shot. So don't get too discouraged. Like right now, there may be shots that you can't take because of the club, but when your club gets up there, be willing to adjust. I'm going to do the rough bump, and that's what I'm going to work on all weekend. I'm pretty sure we're taking that with a sniper, but I can't remember what ball. It does seem to me like it was a bigger ball. All right. Let's draw a line to the green. Pretty close. So this is 1, this is 2. I'm not going to show you 1. I don't know. I know that you can get around this bend, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and you have a great shot coming in. You have an awesome shot coming in, but you have an awesome shot from here coming in, and this shot is a lot more repeatable. Now, depending on your clubs, and once again, what kind of balls you have in your bag. If you got a 4-side spin ball and you've got an Apocalypse and you can work out the curl, you could get all the way up here to the end, but I'm not sure that distance is really going to help you. Okay, if you do your arc, the distance from here to the distance from here. So now we're just talking about whether the terrain's better. And I'm not sure from over here if you can do the rough bump, but the rough bump is money on this hole. Like if you can work it out, you can make this shot. I mean, this is a par 4 that we can get an eagle on. And I've taken this shot, especially when the hole first came out, and there's some great shots from here. I think you can still do a rough bump from over here. There are some great shots from over here, but it's easier to get to this spot, and I like this angle a lot. So here we're doing the bounce off of this to bounce onto this fairway, and we want to end up kind of like on the outside edge of the shadow, somewhere forward of that. If we're in the shadow, we still get a great shot. Anywhere over here we have a great shot, but there's a spot that you want to, really it's better when you're in front of that shadow. So let's draw a line. Here, let's get back to the tee box. So we want to end up there. And there's our somewhat straight line. So that means we're going to have to start off here, and I always leave myself 2 rings of separation. And that's going to put my ball guide going like this, and so I'm going to be like one ring of separation off from this one. So what I normally do is I cheat, and I set my ball guide up so my ball guide's going like this. And let me clear that up. I want my ball guide to be going like this, where it's following that transitional surface. And what that does is, even though that puts me out here, so I'm using side spin and I'm using stuff to make the ball guide go that direction. I'm giving myself 2 rings of separation here, and I'm giving myself 2 rings of separation here, and I'm going to use curl to bring it back over. So actually here you have just maybe a slight bit more than 2, and so when you put curl on, curl is not really fully represented until you get here, so you don't have to put a lot of curl on. You're just leaning to the right. You're just trying to make sure that it's got 1 bounce, curls taking effect. 2nd bounce, it's going to be inside of where you were, but you still had 2 rings of separation, and then you're bleeding out. So it doesn't take very much curl. Just lean. If you put a bunch of curl on there, what will happen is you'll end up clipping the rough right here. You'll land fine here, but you'll end up overshooting this. And just bring it right out to that spot, and you've got a great hornet shot to the cup. And I'm 100% sure we were doing an adjustment here, and I can't remember what it is. I'll have to watch the video. I know it was very slight. I know I was chasing it the last time, and then finally I've trying to work it out and then having to move it around with different winds. But there is a serious shot right there for an eagle. And this is a tough course overall. All right, I love this hole in one-on-one. Because when I play this hole on one-on-one, I almost always get an eagle on this hole. And my opponents almost always get birdie. Because this is a birdie hole with an eagle opportunity. This is not one of those Albie shots or par fives where it's like, hey, you're going out there to get the Albie, and we'll settle for an eagle. No, here, if you walk away with an eagle, that was pretty much it. So most people will come hit immediately from the tee box out into this area. Now, in tournament play, this might not be a bad deal. Because in tournament play, if you can get all the way out to the tip and you bring a big enough ball, you may be able to come in and do a rough bump here. Maybe. But in one-on-one, people hit out here. That means they're relegating themselves to laying up over here so that they have this shot to come into the cup. And I never play this hole that way. There's several ways that you can play this hole. And that is not the one that I play. I play where I start off at the tee box and I'm trying to get out into this area right here, and my ball guide's going like this, and I want that second bounce, or third, I think it's the second bounce. I want that second bounce so that when it's on its arc, it's catching this fairway. Now, I'm not opposed to so I've got my second bounce, like my second bounce is like right here and without any curl. And I know if I add curl on and it brings it around to the right, I can catch this fairway. So I want to put on that much curl to bring that ball around. Now you could set this up so that you can do max curl from this spot and pick a spot, move out the wind, max curl, and you can repeat the shot over and over. If you underdo the topspin and you clip the rough, even if you bleed out and you're on this fairway, you're still eagle. But if you can get all the way to the top without overshooting, and if you overshoot, you can recover from this spot. You can't recover from up here. You can't recover from up here even if you hit from up there if you don't have a big enough ball. But on this fairway, if you're in the front and you overshoot it, you can still get on in two and be putting for eagle. And if you're in the middle, you can still get on it too. But if you're on the fairway right here, I think the last time we played this hole, I came out here with my teammate Kevin, and we were playing this, and you can come around this tree, and I think there is a rough bump that you can do here. But what you normally will do is it doesn't matter where you're at on that green. So you're just trying to get an eagle. The only thing about hitting here is that you do kind of have an Albie opportunity, but you got to make sure you hit it perfect because of this tree. But you do kind of have an Albie opportunity from right there, which you don't have really from up above. If you're anywhere on this fairway, or if you're in the rough in front, you can use this pad right here and go bounce, diddy, bounce, diddy, bounce. Or if you're in this area right here and you're actually in the fairway, you can start on this fairway pad right here, and you can bring the ball around to the green and you're on in two. You can work this to try and go for the Albie, but it's more important, like if you get up to that area and you're like, hey, I can't work it out, I'd have to be way down here in order to get my ball guide. I've got all the backspin and I've got all the side spin on there. The only thing I can do is put on curl. You know, you can go for it, but you want to keep in mind that you're here to get an eagle, and you just got an eagle. And there's going to be a huge percentage of the people that did not get eagle on this hole. This hole will eat your lunch. And it is super easy to get an eagle on if you can get out into this area. So if you fail here, it's better to fail forward than it is to get caught up in this rough. So you can kind of, if you do and it takes so little topspin, you have to put so little topspin on there so that you won't roll off if you catch the fairway. And with the rough bump, you can really only get about halfway. But if you plan on that rough bump and you put on all the topspin, you know, this is the shot that I would be working on. And I know it depends on which way the wind is blowing in one-on-one. So if we get a headwind, it's a little bit harder to get in this area. But if we bring out a big enough power ball, and you want to bring out a bigger ball, you may not need all the ball on the drive. But on that second shot, you want to have as much in your bag as you can possibly get out on the course. All right. That was hole number 9. Wow. that was the Oasis. That was my take on them. I always like these holes. These par threes I thought were brutal. All three of the par threes in this I was not a fan of. And the Oasis came out, it only had 5 holes. And this par 3 was not one of the original 5. The fish one was one of the original 5. This hole was one of the original 5 holes. All right. Everybody have good, I wish everybody good luck this week in the Mirage Cup. Hopefully everybody has fun, and I will catch you. I will post this video in that playlist that I set up for the Mirage, and then I will shoot another video for the big top tournament. Thanks for watching.